The silence in the Galactic Council chamber felt heavy as Ambassador David Wells adjusted his simple gray uniform. Around him, representatives from dozens of species displayed their wealth and power through elaborate clothing and advanced technology. The Krillians wore armor that gleamed with embedded weapon systems. The Vorthak delegation sat behind shields of pure energy. Even the smaller species like the Tellurians had brought ceremonial staffs that hummed with barely contained power. David carried only a basic datapad and wore the plain clothes that had become humanity's trademark across the galaxy. For over a century, humans had perfected the art of appearing harmless. While other species competed to show their strength, humanity had learned that weakness could be the ultimate disguise. Emperor Thane of the Krillian Empire rose from his throne-like chair. His massive form cast shadows across the chamber floor as he activated the central display. Star maps filled the air, showing territories marked in different colors. Human colonies appeared as small gray dots scattered throughout space. The protection tax proposal has been approved by the Council. Security Board, Thane announced. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never been challenged. All minor species will contribute 15% of their gross planetary output to the Mutual Defense Fund. David knew what this really meant. The Krillians wanted more resources to fuel their expansion while making it sound like protection. The tax would bankrupt smaller civilizations, forcing them to become dependent on Krillian aid. It was slavery with paperwork. The hegemony of Vorth immediately voiced their support. Their representative, a tall being with 4 arms, gestured approval. The Vorth pledge our full cooperation. Weak species need guidance from those who understand galactic politics. One by one, the major powers endorsed the proposal. When the vote reached humanity, David stood slowly. Every eye in the chamber turned toward him, expecting the usual compliance that humans had shown for generations. Earth votes in favor of the protection tax, David said without emotion. Humanity recognizes the wisdom of our stronger neighbors and will comply fully with all requirements. Several alien delegates made sounds that might have been laughter. The Krillian Emperor nodded with satisfaction. The human representative shows proper understanding of galactic order. Perhaps there is hope for your species yet? David sat down, maintaining the mild expression that humans had perfected over decades of diplomatic meetings. Inside, he was calculating how much longer this charade would need to continue. The latest intelligence reports suggested that the Krillians were planning something larger than just taxes. As the session ended and delegates began filing out, David noticed a Tellurian ambassador approaching. The small, green-skinned being looked nervous as he came closer. Ambassador Wells, the Tellurian said quietly, "May I speak with you privately?" David nodded and followed the alien to an empty corridor outside the main chamber. The Tellurian looked around carefully before speaking. "My people are concerned about these new taxes," he whispered. "Some of our economists believe the Krillians are preparing for a major expansion. They may be targeting colonies for direct annexation." "That sounds like internal Tellurian politics," David replied carefully. "Humanity has always found it best to trust the judgment of more experienced species." The Tellurian studied David's face for a moment, then sighed. "Of course. I apologize for bothering you with such matters." As the alien walked away, David felt a familiar mix of frustration and determination. The Tellurians were right to be worried, but they still saw humans as fellow victims rather than potential allies. That perception was exactly what humanity needed to maintain. David made his way to his private quarters aboard the diplomatic station. The rooms were modest by galactic standards, containing only basic furniture and communication equipment. He activated a standard diplomatic channel and waited for the connection to establish. General Rebecca Torres appeared on the small screen. Her military bearing was hidden beneath civilian clothes, and the background showed what appeared to be a simple office on Earth. In reality, David knew she was speaking from the most advanced command center humanity had ever built. "How did the vote go?" Rebecca asked, as expected. 15% protection tax approved unanimously. The Tellurians are getting nervous about Krillian expansion plans. Rebecca nodded grimly. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected increased Krillian fleet movements near human space. They're positioning forces for something bigger than tax collection. Any word from the other operations? Project Looking Glass has successfully mapped every major military installation in Krillian space. The technology acquisition team has completed analysis of their latest weapon systems. And our industrial facilities are running at 90% capacity. David felt a moment of pride at what humanity had accomplished in secret. While the galaxy saw them as simple farmers and miners, humans had built the most sophisticated intelligence network in known space. Every major species had been studied, analyzed, and quietly countered. The asteroid facilities? David asked. 17 shipyards fully operational and hidden. The fleet stands at just over 1,200 vessels, all equipped with technology that surpasses anything the Krillians have demonstrated. If they force our hand, we'll be ready. David looked out through the small window of his quarters. Stars filled the view, representing thousands of worlds and billions of lives. For over a century, humanity had chosen to appear weak to avoid the conflicts that had devastated other species. They had watched empires rise and fall while learning from every victory and defeat. How long can we maintain the masquerade? David asked. Intel suggests the Krillians are planning their next move within the month. If they target our colonies directly, we may have to reveal ourselves sooner than planned. Understood. Keep me informed of any developments. The connection ended, leaving David alone with his thoughts. Tomorrow he would return to the council chamber and continue playing the role of humanity's humble representative. He would agree to whatever demands the stronger species made and accept their condescending approval, but in the hidden corners of human space, the most advanced military force in galactic history continued preparing for the day when the masquerade would finally end. When that time came, the galaxy would learn that humanity had not been playing weak at all. They had simply been patient. The stars outside continued their ancient dance, unaware that the balance of power among them was about to shift forever. 3 weeks after the protection tax vote, the morning briefing on New Geneva colony felt different to Governor Tom Bradley. The agricultural reports showed record harvests. The mining operations were exceeding quotas, and the population had grown to nearly 2 million humans across 6 continents. Everything appeared normal, but the intelligence updates painted a darker picture. Tom reviewed the latest data from deep space sensors. While sipping his coffee in the colony administration building, Krillian fleet movements had increased dramatically. Over the past month, long-range patrols that used to stay near their borders were now venturing deep into neutral space. Most concerning were the supply convoys heading toward the human frontier. His communication console chimed with an incoming priority message from Earth. The diplomatic seal indicated it came directly from Ambassador Wells. Governor Bradley, this is a Code 7 briefing, David's recorded voice began. Code 7 meant the information was classified at the highest levels of the human shadow government. Krillian forces have issued territorial claims on 7 human colonies, including New Geneva. They claim these systems fall under their natural sphere of influence and require immediate administrative oversight. Tom set down his coffee cup and activated his secure terminal. The colony's true defensive status appeared on his screen, hidden beneath layers of agricultural and industrial data. New Geneva looked like a peaceful farming world to outside observers, but it contained some of humanity's most advanced military research facilities. All colony governors have received evacuation protocols, David's message continued. If Krillian forces arrive in your system, you are to comply with their demands while maintaining operational security. The masquerade must be preserved at all costs. Tom understood the logic behind these orders, but it did not make them easier to accept. New Geneva represented 15 years of human expansion and development. The colonists had built cities, raised families, and created a thriving society. Now they might have to abandon everything to maintain humanity's secret. 2 days later, Tom's worst fears became reality. The colony's sensor network detected a massive energy signature at the edge of the system. Within hours, a Krillian battle fleet of 30 warships had taken position around New Geneva. The lead vessel, a massive dreadnought called the Iron Fist, established communication with the colony. Emperor Thane himself appeared on the main screen in the administration building, flanked by his military advisors. "Human colony of New Geneva," Thane announced, "you are now under the protection of the Krillian Empire. Your world has been designated as a protectorate effective immediately. All human administrative personnel will be replaced by qualified Krillian officials within 72 hours. Tom activated the colony's emergency broadcast system, reaching every settlement on the planet. His voice remained calm despite the gravity of the situation. "This is Governor Bradley. All residents should report to designated evacuation points immediately. This is not a drill. Emergency protocols are now in effect." The response was swift and organized. Humans across New Geneva began implementing evacuation plans that had been quietly rehearsed for years. To external observers, it looked like a panicked civilian population fleeing in terror. In reality, it was one of the most efficient military withdrawals in human history, hidden beneath the chaos. Specialized teams began activating destruction sequences for classified facilities. Research data was transmitted to secure locations while equipment was systematically destroyed. Within 60 hours, every trace of humanity's advanced technology had been erased from New Geneva. The evacuation ships that departed the planet appeared to be overcrowded civilian transports. The Krillians made no effort to stop them, viewing the fleeing humans as confirmation of their species' weakness. They could not detect the military-grade sensors and communication equipment hidden within. The refugee vessels. News of New Geneva's fall spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The major species expressed mild sympathy for humanity's loss while privately calculating their own advantages. The hegemony of Vorth saw an opportunity to claim territory adjacent to former human space. Admiral Lisa Chun received the evacuation reports from her command post beneath Earth's surface. The facility, built into a reinforced cavern system, housed the operational center of humanity's true military. Thousands of personnel monitored galactic communications, tracked fleet movements, and coordinated intelligence operations across known space. "New Geneva evacuation complete," reported Captain Williams, her chief of staff. "All personnel and classified materials successfully removed. The Krillians have landed occupation forces and are beginning resource surveys." Lisa studied the tactical displays showing Krillian fleet positions throughout human space. The attack on New Geneva was clearly a test of human resolve and galactic reaction. When neither humanity nor the Council offered serious resistance, the Krillians would likely escalate their aggression. "What's the status of our defensive preparations?" Lisa asked. "All shadow fleets remain hidden and operational. The asteroid shipyards have increased production by 20%. Our deep cover agents report that Krillian military leadership believes humans are incapable of organized resistance." Lisa nodded grimly. The loss of New Geneva was painful, but it served humanity's larger strategic interests. Every Krillian assumption about human weakness made their eventual surprise more devastating. A priority communication from the Galactic Council interrupted her thoughts. Ambassador Wells appeared on the secure channel, broadcasting from his quarters on the diplomatic station. "The Council has scheduled an emergency session regarding the New Geneva situation," David reported. "Emperor Thane plans to present his actions as a humanitarian intervention to protect human colonists from pirates and raiders. Any formal protests from other species?" Lisa asked. "The Tellurians have requested a full investigation, but they lack the political influence to challenge the Krillians directly. Most council members seem willing to accept Thane's explanation as long as it doesn't affect their own territories." Lisa felt the familiar frustration that came with watching injustice. While being unable to respond openly, humanity possessed the military power to destroy the Krillian Empire within weeks, but revealing that strength prematurely could unite the galaxy against them. "How much longer do we wait?" Captain Williams asked quietly. Until they force our hand completely, Lisa replied. The Krillians are testing boundaries to see how far they can push without real resistance. Eventually, they'll overreach and give us the justification we need to act. The communication console chimed with an urgent message from deep space monitoring stations. Lisa activated the display and felt her blood run cold as she read the intelligence. Summary: Krillian Emperor Thane had issued new territorial claims covering 15 additional human colonies. His forces were already moving to occupy 3 more systems, and diplomatic channels suggested that Earth itself might soon be declared a protectorate. It looks like we won't have to wait much longer, Lisa said quietly, across human space. Hidden military installations began final preparations for a conflict that had been planned for over a century. The masquerade was nearly over, and the galaxy was about to discover what humanity looked like when the gloves finally came off. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in an atmosphere of barely contained tension. News had spread throughout known space that Emperor Thane was planning to make a major announcement regarding humanity's future status. Representatives from every major species had gathered to witness what many expected to be the final subjugation of Earth. Ambassador David Wells sat in his usual modest chair, reviewing his prepared statement one final time. After 127 years of careful planning and patient preparation, the moment humanity had both dreaded and anticipated was finally at hand. His hands remained steady as he closed the datapad and looked up at the assembled delegates. Emperor Thane entered the chamber with unprecedented ceremony. His personal guard of 12 Krillian warriors accompanied him, their armor gleaming with weapon systems and energy shields. Behind them marched 20 more soldiers carrying the battle standards of recently conquered worlds. The message was unmistakable. Resistance was futile. Honored delegates, Thane began, his voice echoing through the chamber's acoustic systems. Today marks a historic moment in galactic civilization. The Krillian Empire has completed a comprehensive security assessment of human space and found it lacking in adequate protection. The Emperor activated the central display, showing star maps with human colonies highlighted in pulsing red. Over the past month, our forces have documented numerous security violations and administrative failures throughout human territory. Pirate raids, resource mismanagement, and general disorder threaten stability in 17 systems. David recognized the fabricated evidence immediately. The pirate raids were false flag operations conducted by Krillian forces. The resource mismanagement referred to humanity's refusal to extract minerals at environmentally destructive rates. The general disorder was simply human democracy in action. Therefore, Thane continued, the Krillian Empire hereby declares all human worlds to be under direct imperial protection. Effective immediately, Earth and its colonies will be administered by qualified Krillian officials until such time as humans demonstrate the capacity for self-governance. Several alien delegates made approving sounds. The Vorthak representative raised one of his forearms in a gesture of support. The hegemony applauds the Emperor's wisdom in addressing this humanitarian crisis. David noted how quickly the other species endorsed humanity's enslavement when it posed no threat to their own interests. The Tellurians looked uncomfortable, but remained silent. Even species that had been friendly to humans seemed willing to accept their subjugation as the price of continued peace. Ambassador Wells, Emperor Thane said, his attention turning to the human delegation, I trust humanity will accept this transition with the grace your species has shown in previous adjustments to galactic order. David stood slowly, feeling the weight of over a century of planning and preparation settling on his shoulders. Every conversation, every diplomatic compromise, every moment of apparent weakness had led to this instant. The time for masks had finally ended. Emperor Thane, David began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. For 127 years, humanity has chosen the path of peace. We have chosen to be underestimated rather than feared. We have chosen to appear weak rather than demonstrate our true capabilities. A murmur of confusion rippled through the assembled delegates. This was not the tone they expected from a human representative. Thane's expression hardened as he sensed something different in David's manner. Today, that choice ends, David continued. The Krillian Empire has declared war on humanity through their actions. They have invaded our worlds, displaced our people, and now seek to enslave our entire species. We formally reject their claims and declare that humanity will defend itself by any means necessary. The chamber erupted in shocked voices and alarmed communications. Several species began demanding explanations while others prepared to evacuate. Emperor Thane's face flushed with rage as he stepped forward. "You dare to threaten the Krillian Empire?" Thane roared. "Your pathetic species has no military worth. Mentioning. You survive only through our tolerance and the mercy of stronger civilizations." David smiled for the first time in decades of diplomatic service. "Your Excellency, I believe you are about to discover how wrong that assessment truly is." The main communication screen activated, displaying a transmission that originated from space near Earth. Admiral Rebecca Torres appeared on the display, dressed in the full military uniform that no alien had ever seen before. Behind her, the bridge of a warship stretched into the distance, filled with advanced technology and trained personnel. "Emperor Thane," Rebecca's voice filled the chamber. "My name is Admiral Torres of the Human Defense Force. You currently have 347 warships positioned around Earth, believing yourselves to be in a position of strength. I am here to inform you that this assessment is incorrect." The Emperor's confusion was evident as he stared at the transmission. "What deception is this? Humans have no military vessels capable of challenging Imperial forces." Rebecca's expression remained professional, but her eyes held the hardness of a career military officer. "Your intelligence networks have observed exactly what we wanted them to see. For over a century, humanity has been preparing for this moment. We chose to be underestimated rather than start an arms race that would have destabilized the galaxy." The tactical display behind her activated, showing real-time sensor data of the space around Earth. What had appeared to be empty space suddenly filled with contact signatures as hundreds of human vessels dropped their stealth systems simultaneously. "You came here expecting to find sheep," Rebecca continued. "You found wolves instead? Your 347 ships are now surrounded by 1,247 vessels of the Human Defense Force. Every weapon system on your fleet is currently targeted by multiple human vessels. Your shields, your weapons, your communication systems, and your life support are all vulnerable to technologies you did not know existed." The silence in the council chamber was absolute. Several delegates were frantically checking their own sensor readings and communication with their military forces. The confirmation came quickly. Human warships had appeared throughout galactic space, emerging from hiding places that had been maintained for decades. Emperor Thane's voice cracked slightly as he spoke. "This is impossible. Our intelligence indicated that humans possess no advanced military technology." "Your intelligence saw what we allowed it to see," Rebecca replied. "Did you never wonder why humanity agreed to every demand, accepted every insult, and never resisted any aggression? We were studying you, learning your weaknesses, developing countermeasures to every weapon and strategy in your arsenal." David addressed the council chamber directly. "Humanity could have revealed our true capabilities at any time over the past century. We could have conquered every species in this chamber decades ago. Instead, we chose to wait and watch. We chose to let you believe we were weak, rather than prove we were strong. Now the Krillian Empire has forced our hand," Rebecca's transmission continued. "You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw all forces from human space and release all human prisoners. Any hostile action will be met with immediate and overwhelming response." Emperor Thane looked around the chamber desperately, seeking support from allies who were now calculating their own survival. "The other empires will not allow humanity to upset the galactic balance of power." David's smile widened. "What other empires?" "The Vorthic hegemony currently has 200 human vessels surrounding their home system. The Zellan Confederacy is experiencing similar circumstances. Every aggressive species in the galaxy is now discovering that they have been under human observation and targeting for generations. The implications hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. If humanity had been hiding this level of military capability, what other secrets had they been keeping? How long had they been planning this revelation? How many other species possessed hidden strengths that could reshape galactic politics? The age of might makes right is ending, David announced to the Council. Humanity is now in a position to enforce actual justice rather than the predatory peace you have maintained. Any species that wishes to coexist peacefully will find us generous allies. Those who prefer conquest and slavery will discover that the galaxy has new guardians. The transmission from Admiral Torres concluded with a final warning. Your hour begins now, Emperor Thane. Choose wisely. As the screen went dark, David gathered his simple datapad and prepared to leave the chamber. The masquerade was over, and humanity's true place in the galaxy was about to be established through strength rather than deception. Emperor Thane stood frozen in the council chamber for exactly 37 seconds after Admiral Torres concluded her transmission. His tactical implants were processing sensor data that defied everything the Krillian Empire believed about galactic military balance. The readings confirmed what seemed impossible. Humanity had been hiding the largest fleet in known space. This must be some form of technological deception, Thane declared, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Humans lacked the industrial capacity to build such forces. The Vorthak representative had gone silent, receiving urgent communications from his home system. When he finally spoke, his forearms trembled with barely controlled fear. My Emperor, our deep space monitoring stations are reporting similar contacts throughout Vorthak space. Human vessels have appeared in positions that would require decades of planning to achieve. Admiral Torres had given the Krillian Empire 1 hour to withdraw. Fleet Admiral Blake Morrison, commanding the human vessels surrounding the Krillian Armada near Earth, was already implementing contingency plans that had been rehearsed countless times over the past century. All ships report ready status, his tactical officer announced from the bridge of the flagship Defiance. The vessel itself was a testament to human ingenuity, incorporating technology reverse-engineered from dozens of alien species and improved beyond their original capabilities. Krillian fleet movements? Blake asked. No change in position. Their formation suggests they're still processing the situation. Energy signatures indicate raised shields and charged weapons, but no targeting solutions yet. Blake understood the Krillian confusion. For over an hour, their fleet had been alone in Earth space, preparing for what they expected to be a simple occupation. The sudden appearance of superior human forces had shattered their tactical assumptions and left them without clear orders from command. Signal from the Emperor's flagship, his communication officer reported. They're requesting additional time to consult with Imperial Command. Denied, Blake replied without hesitation. They were given 1 hour. Military operations don't pause. For administrative convenience? Across human space, identical scenarios were playing out as hidden fleets revealed themselves to stunned alien forces. The hegemony of Vorth found their core systems surrounded by human vessels that had been hiding in asteroid fields and nebulae for years. The Zellan Confederacy discovered that their neutral trade partners had been positioning military assets throughout their territory. Captain Williams monitored the global situation from the command center beneath Earth's surface. Hundreds of displays showed real-time tactical data from 17 different star systems where human forces were confronting aggressive alien powers. Status report from all theaters, Admiral Torres ordered as she reviewed the incoming data streams. Vorthak hegemony has agreed to immediate withdrawal from human space, Williams reported. Their leadership recognized the futility of resistance. When they realized we had been monitoring their communications for 40 years. Zellan Confederacy response? Their ambassador is requesting emergency diplomatic negotiations. They claim their recent territorial claims were based on incomplete information. Torres noted the careful language. When faced with superior force, every aggressive species suddenly developed an interest in diplomatic solutions. What about the smaller powers? The Tellurian Federation has formally recognized human sovereignty and requested a mutual defense treaty. The Mineral Consortium is offering preferential trade agreements. Most minor species are distancing themselves from the Krillians as quickly as possible. The transformation was remarkable to observe. Within hours of revealing their true capabilities, humanity had shifted from being the galaxy's victim to its dominant power. Species that had ignored human suffering for over a century were now desperately seeking human protection. Incoming. Transmission from Emperor Thane. The communication officer announced. Torres activated the display, revealing the Krillian leader on his flagship's bridge. His earlier arrogance had been replaced by the careful expression of someone reassessing a drastically changed situation. Admiral Torres, Thane began, the Krillian Empire wishes to discuss terms for a peaceful resolution to this misunderstanding. There has been no misunderstanding, Torres replied coldly. Your forces have invaded human space, displaced our colonists, and attempted to enslave our entire species. These are acts of war, not diplomatic miscommunications. Perhaps some territorial adjustments could be made, Thane suggested. The Empire is prepared to recognize certain human claims in exchange for guaranteed non-interference in Krillian space. Torres almost smiled at the desperation in his voice. Emperor, you seem to be operating under the assumption that you have something to negotiate with. Let me clarify your situation. The tactical display activated behind her, showing detailed schematics of Krillian vessels and weapon systems. For the past 127 years, humanity has been studying every aspect of your military technology. We know the exact specifications of your shields, the power requirements of your weapons, and the structural weaknesses of your hull designs. The schematics highlighted specific vulnerabilities in real time, showing how human weapons were specifically designed to exploit Krillian defenses. Your 347 ships represent the most advanced vessels in your fleet. Under normal circumstances, they would be formidable opponents for any known military force. However, Torres continued, you are not facing a known military force. You are facing a civilization that has spent over a century preparing specifically for this confrontation. Every human vessel surrounding your fleet carries weapons designed to defeat Krillian technology. Every human strategy has been developed with complete knowledge of your tactics and capabilities. Emperor Thane's face had grown pale as the implications became clear. What are your terms? Immediate and complete withdrawal from all human space. Release of all human prisoners and compensation for destroyed property. Formal recognition of human sovereignty and non-aggression agreements with all human colonies. And if we refuse? Torres's expression hardened. Then you will discover why humanity spent over a century avoiding war. We don't start conflicts, Emperor Thane, we end them. The communication link closed, leaving the Krillian leader to contemplate his limited options. Throughout galactic space, similar conversations were taking place. As aggressive species found themselves surrounded and outgunned by human forces they had never imagined could exist. The tactical displays in the human command center showed a galaxy in transition. Fleet movements that had been hidden for decades were now visible as humanity revealed the true scope of their preparation. Asteroid shipyards that had appeared to be mining operations disclosed their military purpose. Trade vessels shed their peaceful disguises to reveal advanced weapon systems. How long until the Krillian response? Torres asked. Based on their communication patterns, Imperial Command is debating surrender versus a final assault, Captain. Williams replied. Their military advisors understand the tactical situation, but their political leadership is struggling to accept the reality of human superiority. Torres nodded grimly. She had hoped that overwhelming force would convince the Krillians to surrender without bloodshed, but imperial pride might force them to choose destruction over submission. All fleets maintain ready status, she ordered. If they choose to fight, we'll show them why that was a mistake. Across the galaxy, humanity waited to see whether their enemies would choose wisdom or destruction. Either way, the age of human weakness was over, and the galaxy would learn what Earth's children looked like when they stopped pretending to be harmless. The surrender came 18 minutes before Admiral Torres's deadline expired. Emperor Thane's voice cracked with defeat as he broadcast the unconditional withdrawal order to all Krillian forces throughout the galaxy. Within hours, the most feared military in known space began retreating to their home systems, abandoning territorial claims they had held for centuries. Ambassador David Wells watched the evacuation from the observation deck of the diplomatic station. Krillian vessels that had arrived with such ceremony now departed in desperate haste, their weapon systems powered down and their shields collapsed in gestures of submission. The sight filled him with a complex mixture of satisfaction and sadness at what humanity had been forced to reveal. "The Council has requested an emergency session," his aide informed him. "Every species wants to understand the implications of recent events." David nodded, straightening his uniform for what would be his final appearance as humanity's supposedly weak representative. The masquerade that had defined his entire career was over, and with it, the galaxy's comfortable assumptions about power and strength. The council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives tried to process the complete reversal of galactic politics. Species that had seemed untouchable were now pleading for human protection. Powers that had dominated smaller civilizations for millennia were suddenly requesting defensive treaties from Earth. Admiral Torres entered the chamber wearing her full military uniform, accompanied by an honor guard of human soldiers whose equipment clearly surpassed anything the assembled aliens had seen. She moved with the confidence of someone who no longer needed to hide her capabilities. "Honored delegates," Torres began, her voice carrying the authority of the galaxy's new dominant power. "Humanity stands at a crossroads. For over a century we have watched your civilizations prey upon each other through systems that reward aggression and punish weakness. Today that era ends." The Tellurian ambassador raised a tentative hand. "Admiral, what does humanity intend for the galactic order going forward?" Torres activated the central display, showing star maps that reflected the new reality of human influence. "We could have conquered every species in this chamber decades ago. Instead, we chose to observe, to learn, and to prepare for the day when someone would force us to act. That day has arrived. The Krillian Empire will be placed under supervised reconstruction," she continued. "Their military will be limited to defensive forces only. Their government will be reorganized to prevent future aggression. War reparations will be paid to every species that suffered under imperial occupation." Emperor Thane's former allies shifted uncomfortably as they realized their own actions were also under scrutiny. The Vorthak representative attempted to speak, but Torres cut him off with a gesture. "The hegemony of Vorth will face similar restrictions. Your recent expansion into neutral space and exploitation of weaker species cannot continue. Your military will be reduced and your territorial claims reviewed by an independent tribunal." "What tribunal?" the Vorthak demanded. "By whose authority do you impose these restrictions?" Torres smiled with the expression of someone who had anticipated this question. "By the authority of superior force, backed by superior preparation, exercised with superior wisdom. For over a century you have operated under the principle that might makes right. We are simply better at being mighty." The difference was subtle but profound. Previous galactic powers had used strength to exploit others. Humanity was using strength to protect others. The distinction was not lost on the smaller species who had suffered under the old system. "What about species that have maintained peaceful policies?" asked the Tellurian ambassador hopefully. "Peaceful species will find humanity to be generous allies," Torres replied. "We offer mutual defense treaties, technological exchange programs, and preferential trade agreements. We have no interest in dominating those who seek genuine cooperation." David Wells stepped forward to address the chamber. "The age of predatory imperialism is over. Humanity will not allow strong species to prey upon weak ones. We will not permit territorial expansion through conquest. We will not tolerate the enslavement of entire civilizations." "How can you enforce such policies across The entire galaxy? Challenged a representative from a minor empire that had survived through careful neutrality. Torres activated another display showing the true scope of human military deployment. Hidden bases appeared throughout galactic space, revealing a network of observation posts and rapid response forces that had been invisible for decades. We have been watching and preparing for over a century, she explained. Every major trade route, every strategic system, every potential conflict zone has been under human surveillance. We know where aggression is likely to emerge before the aggressors themselves realize their intentions. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not simply hidden their military strength. They had created a galactic intelligence network that surpassed anything previously imagined. Every species in the chamber was suddenly aware that their communications, their troop movements, and their strategic planning had been observed for generations. This represents a fundamental shift in galactic civilization, Torres continued. Wars of conquest are no longer possible when the defenders possess overwhelming advantages in technology, intelligence, and strategic positioning. Species that attempt aggression will face immediate and decisive intervention. The Krillian ambassador, one of the few Imperial representatives who had not fled after their defeat, raised a shaking hand. What guarantee do we have that humanity will not abuse this power as we did? Torres considered the question carefully before responding. You have the guarantee that we could have done so at any time over the past century and chose not to. We have the guarantee that we revealed ourselves only when forced to defend innocent lives. You have the guarantee that we are more interested in preventing war than winning it. She gestured toward the assembled representatives. Every species in this chamber will prosper under the new order if they choose cooperation over conquest. Your civilizations will advance faster through shared knowledge than they ever did through stolen resources. Your people will live in security, rather than constant fear of the next imperial expansion. The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed the magnitude of the transformation. Within a single day, the galaxy's entire power structure had been overturned. Species that had ruled through fear were now subject to human oversight. Civilizations that had lived in terror were now under human protection. What about our existing territories and governments? Asked a representative from a species that had expanded through relatively peaceful means. Legitimate governments, elected by their own people, will be respected, Torres replied. Territories acquired through conquest will be reviewed case by case. Populations that were forcibly relocated will be given the option to return to their homelands or remain where they have established new lives. Captain Williams approached the podium with a datapad containing the latest intelligence reports. Torres reviewed the information quickly before addressing the chamber again. In the past 6 hours, 17 species have formally requested human protection from aggressive neighbors. 12 governments have offered to share their technology in exchange for defensive treaties. 3 empires have collapsed as their subject peoples declared independence, knowing they now have human backing. The transformation was happening faster than anyone had anticipated. The mere knowledge that humanity possessed overwhelming military superiority was enough to reshape galactic politics without firing a shot. Fear of human intervention was preventing conflicts that would have been inevitable under the old system. The galaxy is experiencing what we call the peace dividend, Torres explained. When aggression becomes impossible, species redirect their resources from military expansion to internal development. Your civilizations will achieve more progress in the next decade than they managed in the previous century. Emperor Thane's image appeared on the communication screen, broadcasting from his flagship as it retreated toward Krillian space. His proud bearing had been replaced by the posture of a defeated leader accepting harsh reality. Admiral Torres, Thane said formally, the Krillian Empire formally recognizes human sovereignty over all claimed territories. We accept your authority to oversee imperial reconstruction and pledge full cooperation with your peacekeeping efforts. Accepted, Torres replied simply. Your compliance will be monitored by human observers. But if you demonstrate genuine commitment to peaceful coexistence, the restrictions will be lifted progressively over time. The communication ended, leaving the chamber to contemplate the speed with which absolute power had submitted to superior force. The lesson was clear. Humanity's strength was so overwhelming that resistance was pointless. David Wells stepped forward for his final statement as Earth's representative. For 127 years, humanity chose to appear weak rather than risk the chaos that premature revelation might have caused. We watched empires rise and fall while learning from every victory and defeat. We studied every species, analyzed every technology, and prepared for every possible scenario. Now that we have been forced to reveal ourselves, we make this promise to the galaxy. Any species that chooses peace will find humanity to be the most generous ally they have ever known. Any species that chooses war will discover that humans are the most implacable enemy they could possibly face. Torres concluded the session with a final announcement. Human patrol fleets will begin regular sweeps of all major space lanes within the week. Any vessel engaging in piracy, slavery, or unprovoked aggression will be stopped immediately. Trade disputes will be mediated by human arbitrators. Territorial conflicts will be resolved through human tribunals. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, many were already composing messages to their home governments, recommending immediate diplomatic overtures to Earth. The smart ones recognized that cooperation with humanity offered unprecedented opportunities for growth and security. 3 months later, Ambassador Wells stood in the same observation lounge where he had watched the Krillian evacuation. The view had changed dramatically. Instead of fearful military formations, space around the diplomatic station now bustled with peaceful commerce. Ships from dozens of species traveled freely under human protection, carrying goods and ideas rather than weapons and threats. The transformation had exceeded even humanity's most optimistic projections. With the threat of conquest removed, species were cooperating at levels never seen before. Scientific discoveries were being shared freely. Cultural exchanges were flourishing. Economic prosperity was spreading to civilizations that had been held back by constant warfare. Admiral Torres joined him at the observation window, still wearing her military uniform, but with the relaxed bearing of someone whose greatest fears had not materialized. "Any regrets about ending the masquerade?" she asked. David considered the question carefully. "Sometimes I wonder what might have happened. If we had revealed ourselves earlier, how many wars could we have prevented? How many lives could we have saved? And how many species might have united against us if they had seen us as a threat from the beginning?" Torres countered. "The galaxy accepted our dominance because we demonstrated restraint. If we had appeared as conquerors, we might have faced a coalition that could have challenged even our capabilities." Through the window, they watched a mixed convoy of human and alien vessels preparing for departure. The ships flew in formation, their different designs representing the diversity of species now working together under human protection. "The children born today will grow up in a galaxy where war between species is unthinkable," David observed. "They'll never know the fear that defined previous generations." Torres nodded, satisfied with humanity's achievement. "We didn't just hide our strength for over a century. We used that time to learn how to wield power responsibly. When the moment came to act, we were ready not just to win, but to build something better from our victory." The stars outside continued their eternal dance, but the civilizations among them had been forever changed. Humanity had played weak until war was declared, then revealed themselves to be the guardians the galaxy had needed without knowing it. The age of might makes right was over, replaced by an era where strength served justice rather than conquest. In the end, humanity's greatest victory was not that they had won the war, but that they had made future wars impossible. The galaxy was at peace, and it would remain so as long as humans stood watch among the stars.